Hi folks, welcome back to another Tall Ship Tuesday video in our series of sailor crafts. I am your host, Captain Sam. Today we are going to be making a Turk's head bracelet. A Turk's head is a constrictor knot that's used mostly ornamentally. We're going to see about tying one, and if you want to follow along at home, you will need a piece of string that's at least 12 times longer than the circumference of the finished thing that you want. So if it's a bracelet, wrap the cord around 12 times, you should be good to go. I'm going to go get my string and we'll start tying. All right, here we go. I've got my piece of string. This is seine twine. You can use whatever cord you happen to have. We're going to take the bitter end and point it down toward my pinky finger. I'm going to wrap the string around the back of my hand and up to the right of that bitter end. I am then going to go from right to left around my hand. Now, if I tucked it under here, it would be a clove hitch. So if it kind of looks like a clove hitch, you're doing it right. But I'm going to not do a clove hitch and bring this around to the back of my hand. Now, once I get to the back of the hand, I am going to tuck this string under from right to left. So under and then off to the left. Once we've got that first tuck, we can start making bites. Now, bites are one of the distinguishing characteristics of a Turk's head. We are going to do a 3-lead, 5-bite Turk's head. So I'm going to take this right hand string and duck it under the one on the left. Now, I'm going to take the long part of my string and bring it up into that bubble of space and off to the right. If I start on the left, I want to end up on the right and vice versa. Now, what goes up must come down, so I'm going to undo that string being under, so it's going to come back to its original home. And once again, I'm going to come up through the middle and off to the other side, in this case, the left-hand side. Okay. All right. So now we're getting pretty close. I'm going to just rotate this a little bit so that we can see what's going on. So I've got this off to the left. I'm going to do the same thing I did before, where I tuck the string from the right under, and I bring my string up and off to the right hand side. All right, I'm now going to flip my hand over and come back to my original beginning. So this point, you can start doing a second round of passes, and to keep it simple, that's what we're going to do. So when I come up and basically come right next to that original string, now I can just follow that original string along. And I used to tell people when I taught this all the time that it's a lot like a freeway. You can go next to the cars in the other lane, but you don't actually want to hit the car in the other lane, so you don't cross over. You just stay on whatever side you're on. Now, to carry the freeway metaphor a little bit farther, we've got overpasses and underpasses that we do take, but again, we're not going to go into that lane next to us. So I'm going to pass this around and follow my string until I have 3 passes. So 3 lanes next to one another. We're going to cut for a second and we'll come back once I've got these passes done. All right, so we're back and I've done all 3 of my passes. This is what it looks like at this point. You've got that original end and here's your other end, and they are parallel to one another. We'll come back to what to do with this end a little bit later, but for now, we're gonna start the process of tightening. Now, a Turk's head is a constrictor knot, which means that it gets tighter, but it doesn't often or easily get looser. It's a fairly complicated constrictor knot. It's not actually useful for very much. You can do a neckerchief slide, which is probably the most practical application, but a lot of tall ship sailors like to have a Turk's head bracelet or anklet, just as a, sort of tall ship badge, I suppose. All right, as we start tightening, I don't want to pull the bitter end where I began out of the bracelet or neckerchief slide, so I'm just going to hang on to that with a couple of my fingers. From there, I'm going to trace where we're at. This is a really good opportunity to make sure none of your turns are crossing and twisted, because they do get that way sometimes. I'm just going to take a little bit of slack out and follow it around and just continue to take up that little bit. And that's going to go around all 9 times and make the Turk's head slightly smaller. All right, so I have finished my first pass of taking slack out of the Turk's head. It's a little messy and uneven, but right now that's okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do that process again and take just a little bit more slack out of it. At this point, if you're making it into a bracelet, you probably want to slip it on your hand or anklet or whatever. We are just going to put this on a broom handle because it makes a really good prop. So I'm going to hold on to that end again and just take up a little bit more of that slack and work it around. And once again, I'm going to do that, and you don't have to watch me do it because it's sort of tedious. All right, so at this point we've tightened down. We're pretty close to our eventual shape, and we're just going to do a last couple of passes to get it really good and tight. So we're going to take that last little bit of slack out. At this point, you can kind of work it around pretty hard to get more slack per pass. Once we've got as much slack as we can, we will go back in with a marlin spike and tighten it down with a spike hitch, and it'll be a fairly permanent addition to this broomstick. All right, so we are back. I have taken as much slack out of this as I can. I've gone through with my marlin spike and really tightened it down. We are at the end, and the question is, what do you do with the ends? Now, if you have tightened this down really well, like it's very, very tight, you can just cut the ends and leave them alone, and nobody will know that it isn't just a magical continuous piece of string. If you're doing a bracelet, you can do one of a number of things. You can tie the ends together and tuck them just under some of the passes. You can glue the ends in place on the inside and then snip the extra. Or if you're feeling fancy, you can splice the ends together. So for this application, I am just going to snip the ends nice and close so that you can't see them very well, and we will pretend that it is a magical continuous piece of string. All right, folks, thank you very much for joining us for our lesson on how to tie a Turk's head. This Turk's head is going to live here on board Providence. Your Turk's head can hopefully find a really nifty home somewhere. Join us next time for another video on traditional sailor handcrafts, and I will see you then.